Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of AV Career Masterminds. I am so excited for our guest today. We have been going back and forth trying to get this scheduled. Email issue, typing wrong, all of those great things. But I can do no justice in introducing, so I am going to leave it and send it over to Murphy. Murphy, introduce yourself and tell us, who you are and what you do and all of the amazing things about yourself.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm happy to be part of this AV employment podcast. My name is Murphy Daley. I am a program manager. I would say project manager, but I'm escalating into being director of project management. Most recently, I am an AV veteran. I am a podcaster. I am a person who runs around in the socials, being social and putting my face out there. You can find me on Twitter, Written by Murphy, all the things. At Written by Murphy is my handle. And I have been around in the AV world. Oh my goodness.
Do you even want to say the It's like me. Do I even want to say sometimes how long?
I'm going to say yes, because, I earned it. I spent a lot of time and I have met so many very wonderful people. So why not own it?
Yeah. Go for it. Murphy, how long have you been in it? I've been in the industry 18 years. So I know that's probably not as long as a lot of the people I know, but it seems like a lifetime for me.
27 years?
27.
Since 97.
Wow.
And way back, 97 was an important time in the history of technology, because I landed in Silicon Valley, and that was before when the excitement was happening. Wow. And so I landed there as a young baby person going, I need to be somebody. And oh my God, I don't have it with me. I actually wrote a book fictionalizing that effort called
Nice.
See, I wasn't even going to go there, but hey, The Parable of Miriam the Camel Driver.
Okay.
And it goes like this. You're like, what? Okay. It's on Amazon in a Kindle form, so it's a quick read. And basically, I wanted to write about what it was like, my career as a video conference person. And I'm like, well, what is video conferencing? It's like replacing, I wanted to fictionalize it. It's replacing travel. Remember? You do a video conference instead of fly, right? It's probably still around. And then I'm like, okay, it's replacing travel, but I'm not the one doing the business of the stuff. I'm replacing the travel. I'm like helping the travel happen. So I'm like, okay, it's like a caravan.
Yep.
So I'm not the one selling the stuff. I'm the one leading the camels.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, it's a good story too. It's a fun book. And it's really about business. It's about balancing creativity and business, which is, and career. So it's a great book. Check it out.
I totally am going to have to. I did not know that. That's amazing. See, we learned, you see, that's what I love about doing this. Like you start talking about things and you get to figure out what people have done in previous lives that benefit what you're doing today. But yes, I remember when I got into the AV industry still in 06, 7-ish. It was still, oh yes, let me sell you this Kodak and this display and this
Kodak,
really expensive,
which was a piece of equipment, just like a microwave size something. Mm-hmm. Except so that moment when Polycom had the set top,
right? That was amazing.
It was.
Sold a lot of those.
But I was never on the sales, because mostly women in AV are very much in sales. I have never been in sales.
No? Okay, so then let's unpack this a little bit, because you said program management and we said project management, right? So you got out to Silicon Valley, brand new, right?
It was an internship. Okay. For NASA. Oh, I was so impressed with myself. I worked for NASA, which is cool, right?
Yeah.
So I got an internship for being an intern for desktop video conferencing at the time in 97. What even was that? That was RuPaul's WebEx. No, it was even before RuPaul got involved, but it was WebEx, right? Okay. And we were doing this stuff. It was, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the terms. What was it? I'm forgetting. These were ones that you could download. And
Yeah.
so I did that, and I'm like, what even is this? I didn't understand it, but I was in junior college, and then I'm like, how about I go do this and take night classes?
Okay.
Then I went to work for Visa International, which at the time I was reading magazines trying to understand what it was I was supposed to know how to do. I'm
Right.
like, what are these magazines? And so I read them, and I was like, there's a thing called H323. Ooh. And H320 and H323. And so when I went to the interview for NASA, they wanted somebody to fill in for someone else who was going to go on a vacation.
Okay.
And I said, H323. And they go, oh, you know what you're doing.
You know what you're talking about.
So they're like, come in. And I was like, okay. And I learned things. There was the bridge. Well, I was going
Yes.
back in time. It had to be a bridge. And there was the PRIs coming in and yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So did that. And I was like, that's what I knew. You do
Okay.
support video conference operations inside of
Yes.
a big company. I didn't know there was a world of AV. I didn't know there was Infocom and Avixa. I didn't know anything about
any of that.
Nothing, because I was running around making sure that the presidents and the VPs had their microphones working.
So you did that, learned all of this stuff, thinking it's a closed kind of network now.
Yeah.
One, and not even so much from the video conferencing standpoint, just a closed network of people. Like, I do this in this building for this company.
Right. I thought if I want to do anything more, I could never live anywhere except near a really big metropolitan area, because that's where the headquarters of a company are going to be that are going to have the kind of jobs that I have the skill in.
So then what after? So then how did you get to now understand?
Then I'm rolling forward. Silicon Valley famously collapsed. I seized that moment to finish my bachelor's degree. I'm like, this is going to take forever taking night classes. So I crammed it all into a year, and it was graduated from San Jose State, famously Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, still no jobs are happening here. So I moved to LA and worked for a law firm for a while doing their video conferencing. And then I went to Kaiser. That was the longest job I had, was at Kaiser, 9 years there.
Wow.
And then thinking like an IT person, a network person, I'm like, okay, I've got ISDN figured out. I've got networking figured out. I got all that figured out. But I'm like, the problems of this operation for this large world, well, Kaiser wasn't world, but this national enterprise, where the problems happen most is on projects. So I need to get certified on projects. Like I got certified on ISDN, I got certified on these other things, right?
Okay.
Then I got a PMP and went, oh, this is another world.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, projects are a whole thing.
But there's different aspects when you think about a PMP and you think about projects. So, when I look at that and I think about it, I know that in my integration days, when I've worked for integration companies, we have our project managers, and some of our project managers have a PMP, right? Or most of them did.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah. So luckily, some of the ones that I've worked with, some of them did, which I thought was amazing, because they took things to a different level, right? They understood things a little bit differently. But it's not just AV with a PMP that in project management that you could do. So,
well, stay with me. I like where you're headed. A little foreshadowing. So then things happen in the corporate world, and I did get laid off. So I'm like, all right, okay. PMP is a big deal test. You study, you do all the things in the test. I think now it's a 6-hour test.
Oh my goodness.
It's a beast. At the time I took it, it was 4 hours, but I took it. I was 7 months pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
And I was worried. I'm like, this is a test, and I'm going to have to, what if I have to pee? So
yeah,
I know. I'm like, I'm going to deduct from my time, literally. So I'm like, all right. So I had spent the time, and I studied hard. I mean, so that's part of what I do. Yes. But I was taking the bus to work at Kaiser, and it was like an hour there and an hour back, and I would study both ways.
Yes.
And so I was a little pregnant person. Then I went and took my pregnant little test and got the certification, but I was still in my area, and they kind of didn't know what to do with me exactly, except that before I or they knew what What projects were exactly? They had me do all the installations. Like,
Okay.
that's a project, but we didn't. It was anyway. So we were upgrading onto what was off of Tandberg onto what the Cisco
Yeah, yeah,
are
yeah,
now,
yeah.
and putting in flat screens because we had the CRTs everywhere at that
Of
time.
course, back then.
So
Yes,
that was
beautiful.
in 2013. So that
Yes,
was I did like 50, and then they laid me off because that's what happens. So I'm like,
that's what
what
happens.
do I do? So then I picked up doing real project management. Well, real having the title. So
Right.
I did that and finally got into some integrators.
Okay.
So I did do straight up AV integration. That was a lot
Got
of
it.
fun. And little plug for the future. I am finishing. I have the manuscript created, but I need to get ready to publish the AV Project Manager's Handbook.
Oh,
It's awesome. Yes,
wow.
it's going to be fabulous. It's really great, and it talks about all the PMP. Oh, I got the PMP, but then right after I got the PMP, because I was in IT,
Yeah.
networking, IT
Mm-hmm.
operations, I'm like, PMP doesn't sound anything like IT.
No.
I'm like, this is like this other universe that you go get a test on. I'm like, where's the stuff where it's IT? And someone
Right.
goes, oh, that's Scrum.
Oh,
Like,
jeez.
okay,
Yeah.
so the next year I got certified in Scrum Masterness.
Jeez.
So I've, because that's how I roll. So then I've kept that going. So I got my PMP, I got my
Yeah.
Scrum Meisterness, and
Mm-hmm.
I kept up with that. So I have these terminology, and in my book there is actually a chapter which is Agile for AV,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
where I say, okay, this is what you're talking about. If you, as a project manager, need to integrate with another place that says we want Agile terminology, here's what it is.
Here's
This is
what it
what you're
is.
talking about, and you and lay it out. So it's a great book, great resource. It'll. I'm working on getting that out there, and stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for that. We'll
Yes,
keep our eyes out for it.
plan to do a podcast tour when I release it.
Oh, we'll have to think of
It'll
it.
be
Yes,
fun.
yes, yes, definitely for sure.
So I did that, and then I then the COVID happened.
Yeah.
The COVID happened, and that changed a lot.
Well, let's pause for 1 second because that did change a lot. So from the PMP standpoint and the Scrums, well, I could see more so with Scrum being able to do a little bit more with COVID, but projects weren't really happening.
I am not a person who sits. I'm
Okay.
always so the company that I was at, God bless them, they had a
Mm.
big old layoff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, okay. So I did other things, and I had a little minute where I was doing some AV for a place, and then they were like, we're not getting any business, so bye. And so I didn't stay there, and then I did some other things, and ended up not so much in AV anymore.
Okay.
I did a year at Adobe, which was amazing. Boy, they
Wow.
know how to do Scrum.
Yeah.
They know
Yeah.
how to do the agile stuff. I'm like, whoa, this is some beautiful stuff. They have pimped out Jira. That's the best Jira I've ever seen. Like, wow, this is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And so I learned some of that. And then just recently, I got laid off from a entertainment company,
Right.
AEG Presents, and got to see some event a lot. That was like almost 2 years of events. And so I got to be kind of that side of how that works. And what I did there was I was the director of the IT PMO. So I got to set up how they do it.
Jeez.
I set up, because I write things like here's how
Yeah.
we do it. And I lined
Right.
it all up, got it all going, and everybody like really relied on how we did things,
Right.
such that when they were like, we have to do cuts, they're like, everybody knows how to do this now, so we don't need her, which happens a lot with project managers.
Well, and you know what, and that's sad because the thing about it is I think you with project management, it has to be strategic. It's, I think about it as the if and then, right? If this happens, great, we do this. If
Mm-hmm.
then this happens, then we have to do this, right? So you need a book You need a play card. It's almost like football. In basketball, you need your plays. You
Yeah.
need your playbook. You need to be able to go through and do this. So you can't just fly by the seat of your pants when it comes to projects.
One ought not to do that, right?
Right. We see it happen, unfortunately. It does.
Well, the thing about projects is it's gathering the information,
Yeah.
organizing the information, and disseminating the information to the people that need it. So gathering the information, it's new information every time. The definition of a project is something that has not happened before.
Right.
It's a new product. You're doing something that didn't exist. And you don't know how to do it until you do it.
Right.
So to say, oh, you're flying, you can't fly by the seat of your pants, for the person that is not familiar with project management, they're like, well, you have to. Not if you can quickly understand how to organize that information with what you just described, the playbook. It's like, oh, I recognize this as this category of information. It goes here, this goes here, this goes here, and then they combine in certain ways to go forward.
Right.
And that much of that is from experience, but also from having the education and the playbook.
Correct. And so what I think is amazing is you can put the playbook together so that regardless of what the project is, there's a process.
There is.
There's a certain process that you have to go through regardless of what the project is. This is just the way I'm thinking.
There are shapes of information that you can recognize once you know to look for them. Like, oh, that goes there, that slot's there, that slot's there.
But then the downfall, as you've just pointed out, is once that playbook is written and a few people have gone through it and understand it, then the said potential person that really understands it, really wrote the playbook, really knows how to make any of the adjustments when the curveball gets thrown out, that person potentially is no longer with company anymore. And then what happens after that? Does it always work?
No, it's not. Absolutely not. It's the up and down. People go, oh, this is organized. We need someone to organize it. And then it gets organized, and it's people like, we don't need this person anymore. Like, we don't need the person, the PMO director. It's part of PMO, Project Management Office. That's what that stands for. So we don't need an office anymore, because the project managers just know what they're doing. And many times in AV integration companies, they can even say, this is also an even further back error that happens, is the engineers know what they need to do. We don't need a project manager. And then the engineers are like going whatever crazy, and they can't do the engineering that they need to do. So they're like, well, we need a project manager. And then the project managers are doing whatever. And the general manager of the office is like, we need somebody to be in charge of the project managers. No. Right. And then they get the project management director, and then they're like, everything's fine. We don't need that guy anymore. And then you go on the sine wave again.
It is so common, and we see it happen all the time. And what I also think happens too is, because of that, you see customers, end users say, I don't want to work with said integrator anymore because I had a bad experience. Right? And usually, if you really dive into with the potential customer why they had a bad experience, it usually, I would say 80% of the time, comes down to their project being managed poorly.
Yep.
And so that
probably going on and on and on and on and never getting closure.
Right. And so that brings me to, there's lots of individuals like yourself that have, well, there's only one Murphy. There's only one Murphy.
There are people like, there are many expert project managers out there, and I've met many of them, and they're fantastic.
Yes. And they unfortunately, I think, have probably gone through an up and down a lot like you potentially have, because of the fact that, like what we just said, they think it can, we've got the playbook.
Yeah.
It's everybody's, all they have to do is read the playbook. Well, I can read an instruction manual. I can read a recipe, but that doesn't mean when I read the recipe, I measured everything correctly.
Yes.
I cooked it for the right amount of time. I know how to use the
Right.
stainless pan I have. I use the right
Mhm.
oil, right?
You don't recognize the shapes that go into the different categories like I was describing. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So so as a PMP and as project managers, to me that's more important than the salesperson now being involved. And I know probably somebody's not going to like me saying that, but it's more important to me than the salesperson being involved to manage the project. The salesperson, I think, should be in contact with the customer. How's everything going? All of that. But
Mhm.
but let the project manager make sure everything is getting done to the scope that the customer wants. And
Right.
you've got the knowledge to be able to do that. I don't have the knowledge to be able to do that.
It's not just like everything is always in motion and is always changing.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
things have to be iteratively updated. And the project manager has to be in charge of that. And a good
Yep.
project manager is very valuable.
Right.
Often
Right.
gets overlooked when, like, we need to cut money. We don't need them. And then, well, sure.
Right. And I've been there in my AV career in the past. I've been there where they're like, well, we're gonna reduce project management hours. I'm like, that is just setting everybody up for failure. Like heavy load project management hours because everybody in the long run is gonna be happy and customers gonna be happy. It just has to be explained. But again, just my opinion.
Well, that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to at the moment. I was laid off in June
Yes.
because economy. And that's fine. I took July. July was lovely. June and July we played, and I did a tour of. We went on vacation. We did to New Mexico.
Oh, nice. Well, I did get to see you at Infocom. So you did go.
Yes.
You
Oh yeah, I
you
went to Infocom like
you
right
did.
away, so that was fun. I
Yes.
went to hang out with everybody. That was great, and then
Yeah.
I got to go to New Mexico. I I keep forgetting the name every time I try to think of the name. The Roswell, the alien town. I got
Oh,
to see Roswell.
nice. Okay.
So cute. They had all these little alien. I missed the alien festival. That was way fun. But
Oh
they
man,
still
that
had the
would have
whole
been
town
fun.
was decorated in aliens, and that was fun. And
Oh,
I
cute.
got to see some lovely nature and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And now I am at this moment looking to set up. I intend to set up a consulting entity and
Okay.
do some contracting.
Good for
You
you.
heard it here. I
We
have
heard it
somebody.
here.
Yeah, I
Is
have
this first?
somebody.
Did we hear it here first, Murphy?
I think so. Yes, yes. I haven't even told it on my. Ooh, hey, yeah. I actually have my regular podcast that I'm usually part of, the AV Life with
Yes.
Hetma. I joined that a while ago, and I haven't even met with those guys because this just happened like yesterday.
Oh, amazing.
So, and I have like a contract that I'm reading through that I'm getting ready to sign and create this entity. And this would give me room also to discuss with potential AV entities that might need some extra help. Let me know. Like I said, you know where to find me.
That's amazing. So now, how did you get to this? So how did you get to the decision to be to kind of do your own thing? It you couldn't find what you were looking for?
I've been wanting to do this for a long time, but what I'm never on the market long.
No, I would say so.
If you guys have watched me, I do this thing and I'm never on the market very long at all.
Right.
This time I sort of chilled and I ran into a colleague. I met somebody locally here who's like, we need to hire some people. Let's do this. I'm like, and he goes, you could go with an entity or you could start doing direct. I'm like, I have been wanting to do direct for a long time. So you can't do it unless you have a customer, right? So like,
Correct.
he's like, I could get you, I got a ton of work. I need this done. It's not specifically AV. It is actually some utilities work.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, I've done all kinds of, oh my God, I've done all kinds of projects. Some of them are local government. And so I'm like, I know this, I know how this
Right.
works. So I'm like, let's do it. So I'm like, and then if I start that, then I could have some other things.
You can. So always kind of been in the back of your mind.
Yes.
I want to do this, but then it was timing.
Right. And so much of all of my career has been timing, because
Right.
I am not somebody to play around. I'm like, show up. And some of the things I'm like, I'm ready to do something AV. And I look at all the AV stuff. My AV friends, get your stuff in order. If you want to leap and take an opportunity, salespeople are good at jumping, but you managers, get yourself ready. Start
Yeah.
grooming. Figure out who you need for different slots to make your uh, vision for what you're trying to do
Right.
happen. Don't be blah blah blah. Because
Yeah.
if any of you want a particular skill, go do it. Be ready to jump. Because if you want somebody who's active, be active too.
Right.
Don't just, because
Right.
I've seen it. I'm like, so I don't. The speed of my career has had difficulty slowing to the pace of AV at this time.
Right.
So and earlier on, I would get in these interviews and they'd be like taking 5 interviews. I'm like, I just got an offer, guys. Bye.
Well, and that's the thing is when you do this, right? And you're going through an interview process. And so let me ask you this question then. How did you, because hence my little tag, we're all more than words on a resume. So with everything that you have done in this time that you have not been working, and before you said, yeah, I'm going to do my own thing.
Hmm.
Was your resume updated? Were you applying for things?
I got laid off in 2020 and I went through several iterations of the job hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And each time was very different, like the flavor
Right.
of it. Right in 2020, it was like, it's a little bit dicey. And
Right.
then after that um, little dip into the AV company, and then they were like, no. So I did it again and things were faster.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, the tone of it. And
Right.
then also the sad time, the scary time way back in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
That was slow. Right after I got my PMP, I'm like, I'm going to go get a PMP job. And, and there was like, it was
Nothing.
very slow in 2009.
Yeah.
So I'm like all these times when I had flavors of what it was like to have a job hunt.
Yeah.
And so,
With everything that you've done and the
mm,
knowledge that you have, right?
mm,
It's a lot. It's how do you get the information out there? Because when you apply for a job, it's like it's a 2-page resume, right?
it's at least 2 pages. Yeah. It might be 3 depending.
So how did you ensure that what you wanted people to know, you got it out there? Did you network? Did you email? Did you?
I have had very little success with networking, honestly.
Okay.
And that has to do with the slowness.
Right.
It's like, hey, I'm ready. I'm here right now. They're like, oh, I should go ask someone. I'm like,
Oh,
I just got
yeah.
4 calls from recruiters. Okay. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, like all the other places are ready to roll. And you guys are like, wow. Yeah. Like,
Yes.
okay,
I
you're going
hear
to get
you.
what you
No,
get.
I know.
So, but talking about getting what's on the resume and making sure to put it out there, to think about what kind of jobs I want to do and what kind of jobs they're paying for.
Yeah.
I hate sitting around. As you said, I've done a lot because I've said yes to all the new stuff. Like,
Right.
what's that? What's that? I've actually put in, right before COVID, I was putting in 911 centers. Totally different, but they're like, you want
Totally
to try
different.
it? Boom. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I helped put in the one that actually finished before I got laid off was
Hmm.
the 911 center for Los Alamos in that
Okay.
particular area
Yeah.
in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And I learned all about what that was. Terrifying. Like, I don't know what this is, but I asked
Right.
all the questions and there was a whole drama about the whole thing. Like, okay, get in there, figure it out, get it done, and all the layers, ask the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not limit myself to an 8-hour workday.
Oh no, probably not.
But this is interesting to me. So I wanted to do it, learned about that. So I had this opening. And so knowing what I knew, then I look at like, what are people hiring for? right this minute, this particular moment, what is opening right now are government and healthcare
Okay.
is what's open right now. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
the other ones are just like, shh, don't move.
Interesting.
Even positions that are open, they're not even they're like they're open, but they're not interviewing and they're not hiring. And the
Right,
reason
right,
I
right.
know this, I would say, well, nobody's calling me. Maybe I'm not good enough. And that's certainly a temptation to think that all the time. Like when my
Oh, it
resume,
is.
yeah, but I know enough to ask. Uh, it ends up being this is real. It ends up being a lot of people from India as recruiters calling me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the parade of Indian recruiters, and they get excited like there's a job that's open, and I match the qualifications. I get like 6 people calling me about that one job. So I'm like, hmm. So, and they call me, they're like, your resume looks great. Okay. And
Yes.
then we negotiate and they're like, hey, make sure to add this on your resume because they are asking specifically for this thing. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, I wouldn't have emphasized that, but they want it. Boom. Yes.
Done.
Have I worked
Right.
on mergers? Sure. Yes, I have done, of course, who hasn't? I
Right.
mean, who
Yeah.
hasn't been involved in a merger? So I'm like, yes, mergers and
Right.
acquisitions at the top. That's what that particular person wants. So I change it for that recruiter. And, because they suggest it, they want it too.
Yes.
So I'm looking now, 6 people calling me about one job, and I'm not getting calls to do the interview. That to me says people are hesitant and waiting, possibly because there's an election happening right this moment.
Right.
But the jobs that are opening are government because government has a long tail. They already got the money and now they're enacting
Now
the
they're
project.
right.
That's what I know right now. So I'm paying attention to what's open. And I could be like, well, maybe it's just me and I should, be ashamed of myself and crawl under a rock.
Right.
Or I can look at what's really happening. And then I ask the recruiters, how's it going? They're like, oh my gosh, we can't get any interviews. Nobody's calling. It's
Yes.
their rice bowl too.
Well, that's the whole thing. And
Right.
that's the other aspect of it is don't be afraid, right? Yes, the
Right.
recruiter's calling you, but don't be afraid to ask the question back to the recruiter of, what is happening? What
Right.
is going on?
Right. How are things? What's going on? It's like, oh, we can't get and then people are picky now. They're like, ooh, you don't want to, I only want to do remote. Me, part of it's like I actually had some interviews with a place. They're like, it's hybrid. I'm like, okay, maybe that's where we are. Do hybrid. I'm like,
Right.
which is why I'm picking out like this one particular one is really nearby. I'm like, this makes a lot of difference. So
Right. It does. And I think, everything's changing so much.
Mm-hmm.
Every day everything changes. Now, even if your job involves travel, people seem to have no problem canceling day of when you've already gotten on a plane the night before, stayed the hotel, go to have the meeting because it's for some reason it seems to be more acceptable. I don't know why, but I've seen that happen more often than not. Like after COVID, it seems to be easier to do that. When before COVID, you scheduled a meeting, you scheduled a meeting. Yeah, because everybody can do this. We can do a Zoom call, which is great. But I love to be in front of people. I love the vibe of people. I love to talk to people. I love to, I want to look around somebody's office and see the picture of their kids or their dog or something. That's
things are strange. It's been weird.
So starting a new gig, your own gig.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be exciting. What are you going to be open to? Is it a specific type of market? Is it any kind of customer? You working with someone specific and then maybe down the road?
I am so curious to try anything.
Okay.
That if somebody is inspired to reach out to me, that's definitely a reason to have a conversation. At that point, it's like, okay, do I have the bandwidth at this moment? Could I add something? I ask questions, right? Okay, what's happening? And I immediately start figuring out like, okay, and this is what's going to take. Yeah, right. Because I'm a project manager. Yes. So I figure it out and go, okay, let's do it. I'd have to have the bandwidth to be able to do it.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah. I'd like to start, once I get my book available to the public, it's amazing. It's like, this is what it's like to do AV projects and manage them, because there's nothing out there specifically to us. So this is like, and then you manage this, and then where you get all the equipment from, and you manage how long it takes to get there, and where getting the displays so they don't break on the way, all that kind of stuff. So when I create that, I put it out there. I'd love to give trainings specifically.
I'm just envisioning you being, the keynote speaker or the training class at the large or small AV companies,
so
working
if a company
with
wants
them.
to focus on it and they're like, okay, this is what we need, maybe they would hire me for a day or a thing, and they'd have the book to go with it, walk people through it. Once they read it, they'd be like, oh, it's going to be super practical. It's not going to be that long. It's maybe like 150 page max.
Yeah, but still, I mean, right. There's no dummies book that you can go to Barnes and Noble and buy for this. Right? You remember the yellow and the black covers, whether it's, it was Windows for Dummies or whatever it was called. There isn't that. So this is definitely something, Murphy, that is desperately needed, I think, in the industry. It's one of those things where yes, it's talked about, but again, most of us.
Also, if everybody understood what it was, if everybody understood from the perspective of the AV project manager, the salesperson would go, oh, I didn't realize that my habit of doing this is affecting this other thing down the road.
Right.
They're like, oh,
right.
Okay, make this easier for everybody.
Exactly. And, like most of us, we've gotten into this industry by roundabout of something else.
Right.
And so there's no specific path for really anything in AV. We're starting to see them slowly come.
That's one of the things I say in the intro. I say AV project managers usually come from another seat.
Yeah. Right.
And they come in and then they're like, ooh, I kind of like this. And then they do it. Or they come from another seat and go, ooh, not this. And go back to the seat. Like, I don't want to do that.
Well, this is amazing. I can't wait for that to come out. I can't wait to hear all about your new venture too. I'm so excited that you have said, I'm going to do some things myself and go after it. That is absolutely amazing. You're an amazing person. You're welcome. Where can our listeners get in touch with you? What are all your handles on all the socials?
Okay, I have kept it simple. Written by Murphy on Twitter, X. It's also written by Murphy on LinkedIn, or Murphy Daley. And if you want to email me, it's written by Murphy@live.com. You can reach out to me if you have questions and want to know more about anything or have a funny joke. I'd love to hear from you.
We do love funny jokes. Talk to the bald AV guys. If you go on there, if you're ever on their podcast, you have to have a bald or a dad joke ready to go. That is their thing. Yeah. Try and do that and research what dad and bald jokes are. You get the same ones all the time. Well, thanks everybody for listening. And Murphy, thank you so much and good luck. And we can't wait to hear. And everybody remember, we are all more than words on a resume.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.